Pyro, one of the most obnoxious and arguably most hated classes in all of Team Fortress 2. Now, this is pretty common knowledge within the TF2 community, but what you might not know is that Pyro has one of the hardest achievements to get in Team Fortress 2. Yes, that's right, this somewhat supposedly easy class actually has a difficult achievement to get, and this achievement is the Pyromancer, where you need to deal a whopping 1 million fire damage to your enemies in order to complete it. Only 6.9% of all TF2 players have ever gotten this achievement. 6.9%. And today, I'm going to be attempting to do it in under a week. And if I don't, well, I'm going to be permanently deleting my YouTube channel forever. So, without wasting any time, let's find out if I can get 1 million damage as Pyro in under a week. Now, for this challenge, we have some rules we need to go over, and they are as follows. Rule 1, I can only play Pyro until this achievement is unlocked, which means I am locked into playing Pyro for the next 7 days, and I can't switch classes, not even to take a break. Rule 2, this challenge must be completed in under a week, and as previously mentioned, I have to delete my YouTube channel if I don't do so. I will also be choosing a new loadout every 100,000 damage, pretty much until I run out of weapons to use. Then from there, I will decide what the best loadout is for Pyro to maximize our damage output, and use that for the rest of the challenge, which leads us to Rule 3. Once a loadout is selected, it is locked in for the next 100k. And Rule 4, no achievement or strange farming servers are allowed. Now that we have all of that out of the way, let's get into this challenge. To start off day 1, I selected my first load.
Oh fuck, okay. Oh, I didn't know I had that mod on.
I selected the first loadout we were going to use for the next 100,000 damage, which was the Flamethrower, the Shotgun, and the Fire Axe. I then loaded into my first game on Barn Blitz and got started on this challenge. Alright, let's do this. I initially thought that playing Pyro would be a walk in the park, W and mouse 1 and all that, right? Well, not when you're me. Dude, what the f***? I can't get a single kill. I sucked so bad I couldn't even get a single kill until halfway through my first game. Until finally this demo man blessed me with my first kill of the challenge. Give me a kill, thank God, dude. Finally, 1 kill. And right after that, I was backstabbed by this spy. Oh, I'm backstabbed. Oh, I got 1 kill. After getting my first kill, the game started to pick up a little more, and I started to see some of the brighter sides of playing Pyro, like randomly getting kills you don't mean to just by hitting your mouse 1 button. Okay, just guess I killed 2 people just then. I also noticed something I'm definitely going to have to improve as time goes on, and that is reflecting enemy projectiles like rockets and grenades. And one specific class I'm going to have trouble dealing with, heavies. With the amount of health they have and how close I need to get to kill them, it's going to be something I'll have to find a solution to as fast as possible. Because although heavies having a lot of health at a base of 300 HP makes them harder to kill, it also means that I can potentially get more damage by killing them. So finding a way to do that efficiently will definitely be beneficial to me. With all that said, I finished my first game with an abysmal 1600 damage. Let's hope I can pick it up in my next game, because at this rate, with that game lasting 20 minutes, it would take me 156 hours to complete this challenge, which is obviously impossible to do in a week. Game 2, I loaded into Snowy Coast. I was able to get a kill a lot quicker in this game than my previous one. However, I was struggling to get more than 1 kill at a time, and heavies still weren't any easier to kill just yet. But overall, this game went slightly better, and I managed to end it with a total of 2000 damage after 20 minutes, which is a small improvement from our previous game, but still not anywhere near where I needed to be just yet. Although I was getting better at getting damage, I think. Game 3. I was still struggling to close the distance on players, especially classes that were able to shoot me from longer ranges like the Spy here in this case. However, I did manage to get my first double kill as a Pyro, somehow. Okay. But I still clearly had a lot of room for improvement when it came to reflecting projectiles from enemies. God damn it. I did start using my shotgun though, which was actually nice to have for when enemies got out of range of the flamethrower. Being able to tag them at a distance will hopefully help me out in fights down the line. To finish off game 3, I ended with 2400 damage, a 400 damage improvement from our last game. To give you an idea, in 1 hour, I managed to get a total of 6000 damage. At this speed, after reviewing these 3 games, it would take me 166 hours to finish this challenge. That's 23 hours a day for the next 7 days. Yeah, that's just simply not possible. I need to really start getting better at Pyro if I'm ever going to finish this challenge in time, and save my YouTube channel from being deleted. Now, to make things even worse, bots have started to plague Australian servers again, meaning finding a casual game to play is going to be a lot harder than I had originally predicted. But there would be a solution to this, Uncletopia, which is a community server that can't be targeted by bots, meaning I could play safely on there without having to worry about bots taking over a lobby. However, Uncletopia does not have random crits, so if I do play on there, I could be missing out on a big chunk of potential damage damage while doing so. So to prevent missing out on too much damage, I will use Uncletopia as a safe haven from bots when the time is needed. Other than this, I'll be playing casual or Skiles 24/7 2-4 servers to maximize our damage output and keep our downtime to a minimum, so I can get this challenge done as soon as possible. As I started to get more into this challenge, I was getting a little bit more comfortable with this loadout. I even managed to reflect my first ever rocket back at a soldier. Oh! Oh! And right after this, I was able to do the same thing to this demo man. Even though he did kill me, I was pretty happy with the little bit of progress shining through. I even managed to get my first ever positive kill-death ratio as Pyro. Dude, I have a positive KD in this game for once. That's crazy. But I still felt like I wasn't getting damaged quite fast enough. So I switched to Skiles 24/7 2-4 server for a little to see if I could speed things up. And that's where I started to see clips like this. Oh!
Years.
Oh, it's on Rican as well.
And it was this.
God damn, dude. Where I was even reflecting rockets from friends who were in the lobby with me at the time. And again on another soldier a couple minutes later. Things were starting to look up. That was until I checked the amount of damage I had done so far. In 4 hours, I managed to hit 50,000 damage. Okay, it is definitely an improvement from our previous time, but it's still not ideal. At this rate, it would still take us 80 hours to finish, or 13 hours a day to complete this challenge. I would not be able to play TF2 every day for 13 hours straight. So hopefully this improvement can continue and it doesn't plateau. I continued playing on a mix of 2-4 and Uncletopia for the next few hours. I honestly was really enjoying stock Pyro as I got more into the challenge, and I was really starting to lock down the basic mechanics of the class. Things like air blasting and switching to my secondary were starting to become more like second nature to me, and instead of having to think about doing them, over time they were just becoming a habit, which was going to be good to get into for the rest of the challenge. Obviously my gameplay was very far from perfect, but I was improving and that's what I was looking for. Even to the point where I was able to get multiple kills in a row, which was already a world of a difference from where we first started. For example, I couldn't even get a kill at the start of the day. After 8.5 hours, I finally managed to reach 100,000 damage, which means I had a total of 77.5 hours remaining of this challenge. This meant I would still have to play TF2 for close to 13 hours a day for the next 6 days to complete this challenge in time. There's no way I'm finishing this thing if I continue at this pace. I hope our next loadout will help us speed things up a lot more, otherwise I might just have to kiss my channel goodbye. Since I've been playing TF2 for 8.5 hours straight, it was getting pretty late at this point, so I decided to get some much needed rest and continue the challenge the next day. So for day 2, I thought, you know, if I'm going to be a dick and play Pyro for the next week, then why not play the part and become one? Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, I'm looking good now. So for our second loadout, I went with the Degreaser, the flare gun, and the extinguisher. This is essentially a quick draw loadout. By using the Degreaser, I will be able to switch between weapons a lot faster. It has a 60% faster deploy time than stock, with 30% faster holster time as well, meaning I can switch between my Flamethrower and secondary, which in this case is the flare gun, a lot faster than before. So in theory, it should make using a combo like this a lot more efficient to use, but we'll just have to see about that. For the first bit of day 2, I loaded into Skiles 2-4 server to try and get a quick start on damage right off the bat. One thing I will say is that the flare gun was already feeling nice to use. I think having some demo man experience under my belt helped a little while using this weapon, especially when it came to hitting shots where I needed to predict enemies' movements in order to successfully hit them. So even though my aim with the flare gun wasn't perfect, it was something I was feeling pretty comfortable using right now. I was even hitting some pretty good clips with this loadout because of how quickly I was getting used to it. Oh my god. Being able to switch to the flare gun after hitting an enemy with the Degreaser for a critical hit was a really good way of maximizing my damage output. It also made for a few satisfying kills too. Oh shit. This thing's so fucking satisfying to use, holy shit. The flare gun also seems like the perfect solution to an issue I'm having, which is trying to get close enough to enemies, especially against classes like the sniper, who can just sit at a distance and kill me without me being able to get a hit on them. However, with the flare gun, I can use that to deal damage at a distance, and even if I'm not able to kill them, at least I can farm them for the damage that I need. After 12 hours into the challenge, and 3.5 hours on for the day, we were sitting at 150,000 damage. So I was moving a little faster than yesterday, which is good, but still not as quick as I needed to be moving. I did, however, come across one method that was going to help me pick up my damage output, especially later on in the video, and that was spawn camping. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god, crits! Oh my god. One thing I found really entertaining besides spawn camping my enemies and making the game absolute hell so that I could get the damage I needed to save my YouTube channel was how scared soldiers started to get when versing me. Usually when playing TF2, they always seem so confident to me, coming and blasting all over me, blowing me. Wait, what? Anyways, but now that I'm playing as Pyro, they really had to think before shooting their rockets at me, because I could potentially shoot them right back with a bonus crit on the end too. But little did they know I hadn't quite perfected air blasting just yet. After 15.5 hours into the challenge, I had finally hit 200,000 damage, with a loadout I actually felt really comfortable using. In these few hours of playing today, I found a few strategies I can use to keep on top of this, and hopefully finish this challenge in time. But there was one strategy I haven't mentioned just yet, and that is having a medic girlfriend. Yes, I said it. I had a pocket for the end of the day, and man did it speed things up a ton for me. So with that discovery, you'll be seeing and hearing Oats throughout the video, who has decided for some reason to help me out with this challenge as much as she can. Anyways, let's talk about this loadout. It was actually really fun to use. I had a really good time using the flare gun, and like I said previously, I think it comes down to my previous experience playing Demo Man, which was definitely starting to show as the day went on. Being able to use it as a combo with the Degreaser and its quick draw time was the perfect combo for me. The only thing I will mention is how players were able to run from fights a little more than I would like due to the reduced afterburn time on the Degreaser. So at 15.5 hours and 200,000 damage, we currently had 62 hours remaining. A little better than before, but we still had to get that number down quite a bit if I'm gonna have a YouTube channel in the future. For the next loadout, I decided to go with the Backburner, the Detonator, and the Power Jack as a melee to hopefully give me a little bit of movement speed to try and get around the map a little faster, and maybe get some flanks on my enemies. The first thing I definitely noticed with this loadout was the draw speed of both the Detonator and the Backburner. It felt a lot slower than using the Degreaser, and was something I would take a little while to adjust and get used to. In saying that, it also caused me to miss a few shots with the Detonator because it just took that little bit longer to take out, and I was finding it hard to get down the timing of this combo. One thing I also noticed with the Backburner is that the hitbox on what is classified as a player's back is kind of broken. Sometimes I'll be focusing directly on a player's behind and won't get a single critical hit, whereas other times I'll just randomly get them from just looking at the side of a player. I don't know exactly how that makes sense, but there are plenty of times throughout using this loadout where I feel like I should be getting crits, and unfortunately I just simply don't. On a better note, I am getting a lot better at taking care of classes like soldiers and heavies, as I was slowly getting more used to this combo. Being able to switch to something that gave me fire damage from hitting a target once was definitely a big help, even though it only gave me mini crits compared to the flare gun's critical hits. It definitely works well against enemies who have more health, and it's also just fun to pull out a direct hit weapon in the middle of a fight and use my aim to my advantage to win. After an hour and a half, I was able to reach 220k, and I've been playing for around 7.5 hours today. So at 2 AM, I thought I should probably call it for the night and continue my progress tomorrow. Let's see if we can pick things up for day 3. We were now 3 days into the challenge, almost halfway in, and we were only on 220k. I need to get a lot more damage today if I'm going to get close to finishing this thing on time. To start off day 3, I loaded into 2-4 and got right back into it. I will say my thoughts on the Power Jack for rotating quicker really didn't come to fruition. I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. I think with it being in my 3rd slot, it just became an afterthought, and it not being able to deal any fire damage just made it kind of take a little bit of a backseat. The day was going pretty smooth so far. I played for 5.5 hours, and after 22.5 hours, I managed to hit 300k damage. I will say that this loadout was not as good as our previous one. The slower draw time of the Backburner and Detonator didn't feel as smooth to use as the Degreaser and Flare Gun did, and if I had to choose between the two of these combos, I know which one I'd be choosing. As well as the Backburner just not feeling like I was able to use it for its main purpose. It kind of felt like a pointless flamethrower to use the majority of the time. Damn, not a single crit. You're kidding me. Of course, it did have its moments, but they were few and far between. Oh my goodness. So after 22.5 hours, we had reached 300k, which left us with 52.5 hours remaining of the challenge, which means I had to play for another 17.5 hours every day if I want to complete the challenge at this rate, which is just not going to happen. I need to speed things up badly. I'm not deleting my channel, goddammit. On to our next loadout. This one is going to be fun for a very specific reason, especially combining the Phlog with spawn camping enemies and with a pocket medic. This was the perfect recipe for a crazy amount of damage. Oh, damn! The plan for this loadout was to have Oats be ready with the crit screen after my oomph meter had ran out, to really get the most out of the Phlog and make the crits last double the amount of time, leading to clips like this where we could get thousands of damage at a very quick pace. Alright, crit me.
Okay. Oh my god.
Fuck.
the fucking feed. Holy shit.
They're mad. I think they're a little mad. I will say, however, there is one major flaw with this loadout, which is the fact that the Phlog does not have air blast, meaning finding classes like Soldier and Demo was going to be a little more challenging than I would like. I for sure felt myself missing air blast more than once during the course of this loadout, and it's definitely going to play into whether or not I choose the Phlog as my main flamethrower later in the video. The question is, does the amount of potential damage I could get using this weapon outweigh my ability to stay alive during fights? In saying this though, there were times where soldiers didn't realize I was using the Phlog, and I was able to kill them quite easily because of this. I was also able to use the invulnerability from the Phlog to my advantage at certain times. Especially when my health was low, I was able to make myself invulnerable and finish off enemies quickly using the crits I got after the animation was complete, which led to me getting a few extra easy kills I may not have gotten if I wasn't using the Phlog. This was particularly handy against other pyros. Later on in the day, I had to get myself a stand-in pocket, Worst, because Oates had to get off for the night. So I was able to have Worst give me crits on top of the Phlog's crits for a little while, which was really useful in this game on Harvest, where I had what I would say was one of my best games so far.
Oh, nice shot, man.
But even with all that progress I felt I was making, I still somehow managed to get fished to death. Well, it wouldn't be an ArJay video unless I get fished to death, right? After this, Worst had to get off. So I was left without a pocket for the rest of this loadout, which meant I had to think of another way to keep on top of my damage output. And then it hit me. I hadn't really been using my secondary much with this loadout. So to replace the pockets, I had to resort to using the scored shot, which to be honest wasn't all that bad, especially when I was hitting clips like this. Oh my goodness. This thing was actually really nice to use. The fact that the projectile could potentially do damage to multiple enemies at once was a big bonus to me. And I felt like my aim with these flare guns had become pretty effortless as well. So using the scored shot in combination with the Phlog, I was starting to feel like I could efficiently deal damage by using mini crits from hitting a shot with a scored shot to give myself that little boost in damage that I needed. Of course, it wasn't as good as having a pocket with the Phlog, but since I didn't have one at the time, this was working better than I expected. And I even ended up becoming a menace in the lobbies that I was in, to the point where I was getting hate messages in chat.
Oh, you gotta fuck you.
Oh shit. To Phlog Pyro, fuck you. I did see there was a more efficient way we could have gone about dealing crit damage as Phlog Pyro with a pocket medic, and that would be to let the oomph meter build up by using the crits creed to kill some enemies first, and then use the Phlog's crits after. This would have made getting my oomph meter filled up a lot easier, and getting clips like this a lot more common than it was. In 27.5 hours, I hit 400,000 damage, which left us with around 41 hours left of this challenge, and I'm not even halfway yet. This next loadout is going to have to be pretty good to get us over the halfway mark in an actual decent time. Yeah, I didn't know it yet, but this loadout was the loadout from hell. This gun, the Dragon's Fury, oh my god, this thing was horrible for me to use. I think after not having to aim too much using the Flamethrower these past few days, my aim has become a lot more relaxed, leading to me missing so many shots with this weapon, which practically makes it pointless to use for this challenge. But it's locked in for the next 100,000 damage, so let's hope I can improve as fast as possible, because we are on day 4 of 7 and we're not even halfway there yet. My channel is not looking very safe right now. The first thing I noticed about this new loadout is of course how terrible I was with the Dragon's Fury. I found myself missing shot after shot and maybe being only able to land 1 or 2 shots during my first few fights, which ultimately led to me dying pretty quickly, with little to no damage being done. Oates had joined me to start off the day to try and help me increase my damage, but even with the crits medic, I was still missing my shots while being crits creed, which hurt a lot seeing all that damage go to waste just because my aim was so off. One nice feature, however, of the Dragon's Fury is the fact that I now have air blast back, meaning fighting enemies such as soldiers and demos was made a lot easier, provided I actually follow up and hit my shots after reflecting their projectiles back at them. It was also really good at getting rid of enemy sentries and deployables. Yeah, this thing's great for ranginess. Holy fuck. So damn good at it. I was able to fire a couple shots and completely destroy sentries that had just been set up, which was just not possible at all with any other flamethrower. So it helped in becoming more of a support role for my team by being able to clear NG nests. Although the challenge was for fire damage against players, I thought this was a good point to mention as a somewhat redeeming factor for this weapon, as an option for a pyro player to use. As I progressed through the day, my aim was getting better with the Dragon's Fury. I was slowly starting to get more consistent with my shots, even hitting some pretty nice flick shots for some clean kills, as you can see on this scout in this clip here. Dude, what a flick shot. Which was one of the classes in particular I was having trouble hitting shots on previously. So with my aim getting better, I went from having games where I only did 500 damage to getting over 1500 in a single life at some points. What I will say about this loadout is that it was my least favorite to use so far. With the Dragon's Fury requiring you to have good aim, I was expecting it to feel pretty satisfying to use, but it really didn't. It kind of just felt like an underwhelming version of the Soldier's direct hit rocket launcher, with it doing far less damage on impact to top that off. Sure, it had afterburn, but that doesn't really help much when you aren't even hitting your shots in the first place, which for half of this 100k I was definitely struggling to do. With that being said, it took me 7 hours to go from 400k to 500k damage. We had finally reached the halfway point in our challenge, after a total of 34.5 hours in, with another 34.5 hours remaining of the challenge if we kept going at this speed. It was really late into the night after reaching this milestone, so I decided to head to bed and pick this challenge up again in the morning. This loadout looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see if that's the case. To start off day 5, I loaded in and started playing around with the thermal thruster for a bit. Okay, I guess I'm not going over there. I guess I'm not going over there. Now, there was one thing I did notice very early on into using the thermal thruster, and that's how I got so used to having a secondary of some kind like the flare guns I've been using before. So I would catch myself randomly switching to the thermal thruster mid-fight, thinking I was going to pull out a secondary weapon, when I see 2 big, long, juicy sticks come on either side of my screen. I mean, sure, I don't mind seeing that, but not when I'm trying to kill this heavy. Come on. It was, however, nice to have the good old stock flamethrower back. I'm definitely leaning towards this being my main flamethrower to use as Pyro, especially when you throw a medic girlfriend into the mix. Being able to consistently deal crits damage as well as air blast enemy projectiles back at them made this flamethrower a really strong choice for me. With it being good at dealing damage in mostly close range quarters, I spent a lot of time on 2-4 to maximize my damage output. In saying that though, as I got more invested into using the flamethrower, I started to neglect using the thermal thruster. Not like I was going to use it much anyways. I will admit, it was pretty good to get in certain positions, and for faster rotation around maps to get back into the action. Also a couple times to escape fights when I was close to dying, but other than that, I didn't really use it all that much. It kind of just became an afterthought as I was getting further into the day, especially after streaks like this, where I tried multiple times to use it only to die right after trying. I would say this is more something I would use if I was bored of playing Pyro, not something I would be able to use as a main loadout. One thing I was starting to notice some improvement in while using this loadout was my ability to spy check and kill enemy spies was getting better. From spies being something I really didn't think about at all and would just die to them at any point, to something I'm now thinking about constantly in the back of my head. I just found myself spy checking teammates more and being more cautious in general of my back being exposed for long periods of time. At 40.5 hours in, I had made it to 600,000 damage. 6 hours into day 5 and we still had a long ways to go. I'm not going to be getting much sleep for the next couple days if I want to reach 1 million damage on time. I was pretty happy using stock flamethrower, so I think I'll be sticking with that for our next loadout, as we've ran out of flamethrowers to use other than weapon reskins. For the next loadout, I went with the reserve shooter as my secondary weapon. I was interested to see how it would feel switching back to a shotgun for a secondary, especially while using the stock flamethrower, but the reserve shooter just wasn't all that great in comparison to my experience with the flare guns I've been using previously. With it only having 4 bullets compared to the regular shotgun 6, it also felt pretty limiting. I am aware that the draw time was slightly faster, but 4 bullets didn't really feel like it was quite enough in large scale fights. I found myself reloading quite a bit, and a lot of the time that led to me dying because of the delay caused in between shots. One improvement I have noticed today though, is that my ability to deal with multiple enemies at once is far better than when we first started. At this point, I was pretty familiar with Pyro's mechanics. Obviously, I was no pro Pyro, but I was able to comfortably take on larger fights with multiple enemies, even without the need for a pocket medic. And one major thing I feel helped with this is my air blasting skills improving, to a point where it's getting talked about in-game.
ArJay's air blasts scare me.
Being able to make a soldier so scared of my air blast that he takes to chat to mention it is a pretty big compliment, I can't lie. For the remainder of the next 100k, Oates joined to help me out as a medic, and we used crits to terrorize our enemies until we reached the next 100,000 damage milestone, which went a lot better than I was expecting to. In 4.5 hours, we had made it to 700k damage, which is our fastest time yet to hit 100,000 damage. So a total of 44.5 hours in, we had 1/3 left to go. Let's see what we can come up with for the next loadout, to hopefully get through this as fast as possible. I've been playing TF2 for 10 hours straight at this point, so I decided to sleep and hopefully be able to complete this challenge tomorrow, on our final day to finish it. I don't even really want to talk about this fart juice, dude. This stuff sucks. I spent so much time using this loadout and expecting it to do something, but it was very underwhelming. For those of you that don't know, the gas passer is an item that you throw on your enemies to cause them to be inflicted by afterburn after taking any form of damage, even enemy pyros, whether that be from bullets or melee attacks. But for me, for the most part, I found it easier just to set people on fire, rather than taking out the gas to throw it, and switch back to my flamethrower afterwards. Sure, I think in large scale fights, the gas passer could be useful, but unless unless I'm part of some coordinated team attack, I don't see much use in using it while paired with a Phlog. But yes, I did switch back to the Phlog for this loadout. It simply came down to the fact that I knew I wouldn't have a pocket for the first part of the day, so I needed some way to get crits. And well, what better way to do that than Phlog Pyro? Also, I was expecting this to happen sooner, but players were starting to get a little heated at me for using the Phlog. And to be honest, it made me enjoy using it even more. Like this guy right here. Dude, this guy's not happy I'm using the Phlog.
I didn't ask you, you demented brain-damaged fatherless worm.
Oh my god, he's so angry. As much fun as I was having with Phlog Pyro, I still found myself missing Air Blast a little too much to be able to call this my main primary weapon. I think it definitely served its purpose as one of the fastest ways to get damage in this challenge, but if I'm able to stay alive longer by reflecting enemy projectiles to maximize my damage in a single life, I'm gonna do that instead. 5 hours into day 6, and I hit 800,000 damage, bringing us to a total of 49.5 hours into this challenge. And to be frank, 49.5 hours straight of playing Pyro for almost a week, I needed to change things up. Maybe even a change of scenery. Yeah, this was a mistake. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch all this footage of me prancing around in this oversaturated eyesore, but I will say it was a nice break for like 10 minutes. And then after that, I got pretty sick of it. For those of you that don't know, the Rainblower is just a reskin of the stock Flamethrower, just with some cool bubble happy effects to, you know, not make you feel as bad while you're absolutely burning your enemies to a crisp. As for the panic attack, well, that wasn't really used very much, simply because I needed to get this challenge done on time, and it was specifically for 1 million fire damage only. So this late into the challenge, with limited time left, I didn't really have time to mess around with the shotgun too much, but there was a couple times I used it to help me stay alive longer. I spent 3.5 hours in Pyroland and finally reached 900,000 damage. And that's definitely enough time in Pyroland for me, thanks. I apologize for what your eyes just had to witness. Don't worry, we're gonna go back to regular old TF2 now. For my final loadout, I went with the stock Flamethrower. I feel like Air Blast has become something I use too often to not have it available to me. Sure, the crits from the Phlog are nice, but being able to control a fight in a way the Phlog can't simply offer me is a lot more appealing to me. For my secondary, I went with the flare gun. I found this was a strong weapon of choice for me to use, being able to deal damage at a distance and rely on my aim to get much needed critical hits to take out enemies quickly with one final hit. Which was super convenient, and the flare gun definitely delivered on this for the last 100k. I found my aim feeling leagues better than it was compared to at the start of this challenge. I was consistently hitting my shots with the flare gun to the point where it just felt natural to use, and I was able to efficiently deal with large groups of enemies much better, simply because one hit from this thing would change the swing of a fight very quickly in my favor. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Well, it wasn't anymore because I took off those damn goggles, but you know what I mean. I was 8.5 hours into day 6 at the start of this milestone, and day 7 was fast approaching. It was currently 10:30 p.m. and I had 1.5 hours left to complete this challenge, or else I'd no longer be able to post on this channel anymore. But just as I thought it was all over... Oh, I hit it. I hit it. Let's go. 1 million damage. By the skin of my teeth, I managed to complete this challenge, with my fastest time to ever hit 100k damage at 1 hour and 25 minutes, thanks to having oats as a pocket the whole time. We finally finished this thing. I won't lie and say I didn't enjoy playing Pyro at times, especially as I became better at the class. And I know now from the experience I picked up filming this video, I can pretty confidently play Pyro when needed to help out my team. Let's just say I won't be giving the Pyro the cold shoulder as much as I used to. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Here is a video YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy.